There's a saying that truth is stranger than fiction. Well, today on aartadventure, I'm hopefully going to prove that to you with the Day 2 prompt for Inktober 2019, Mindless. Just a quick heads up, if you are easily disturbed, this is probably not the video for you, but for those who are curious, let's go on aartadventure. I'm starting off today's piece by showing you a thumbnail sketch, which is a little bit unusual for me, so yay me for doing a thumbnail sketch. I always want to do them, and then I often just dive straight in and regret that I didn't do one, so really happy that I took the time, just a couple of minutes, to do a thumbnail today. And while you're watching that, have a guess and see if you can figure out what I actually am drawing. I'm curious to see if anyone can figure it out. If you do, press pause and let me know in the comments below before I switch to doing the main piece. While you're watching, I also want to take a moment to say thank you so much because of a couple of things. Firstly, I saw that I'm almost at 800 subscribers, which has blown my mind. That's so cool. Thank you so much. But perhaps even more importantly was I was feeling kind of down about the whole Inktober thing because I wanted to plan it out during September and even get started early, and I hadn't done any of those things, and in fact I started pretty late on October the 1st and stayed up really late to get it done, and I just really wasn't feeling so great and didn't have very much sleep. But then when I woke up in the morning, I had all of these lovely comments from viewers who were encouraging and understanding and really supportive of me, regardless of if I'm going to be continuing with it or not. And it actually really motivated me to jump in today and do a pretty complicated piece using a whole range of pastels. I know it's not actually ink, but too bad, it's my Inktober, so I'm just going to do whatever I feel like doing. Any sort of art I'm happy with. And speaking of the art, also sorry, before I get into the art, if you haven't been commenting below too, I also super just appreciate the views and stuff as well. But I guess the thing that really motivates me for YouTube is when you leave a comment down below. So if you ever have thought about doing that and leaving me a comment, I'd super appreciate it. Okay, now let's talk about the art. In a whole range of forests around the world lies a very deadly little fungus, the Cordyceps fungus. Thankfully for us, we don't have to worry about it. At least I don't think so. But for insects, it is a life or death war. This fungus does some amazingly strange things. It starts with the spore landing on a poor insect. And in fact, there are many Cordyceps fungus species, and each one of them targets just one particular species of insect. When the right spore lands on the right insect, it can work its way inside. And that's when the damage really begins to happen, because this spore begins to grow and move into the brain of the insect. And somehow it begins to take control through hormone messages or chemical signals, changing the behavior of that insect. In the case of a bullet ant, for example, the ant will start grooming itself strangely and then eventually move up to a high-facing twig and climb up it. Once it reaches a high location, the mandibles or jaws of that ant are going to bite down firmly on that twig, locking it into place, and it's never going to move again. Meanwhile, the fungus begins to take shape, growing faster and more inside of this insect, until the sprouting body, the reproductive organs, begin to sprout out of its head, growing over a period of days to weeks into a long spindle, taking over its mind and body and growing its next generation of reproductive cells, its spores. Eventually, the fruiting body is large enough and developed enough that many thousands of new spores will explode out. each of those will start to drift through the forest. And if any one of them lands on another insect of that same species, the cycle begins again. I think it's such an incredible story of parasitism, and I find parasites completely overwhelmingly interesting and fascinating. I first was lucky enough to learn a lot about parasitism in my first year of university. I did a course where the medical and veterinary students would all start off the same as the science students, and so I had to do introductory parasitology for a year and found out all sorts of amazing things about the insects, and even went on to do second year parasitology because I was fascinated by it. Eventually, I actually majored in studying insects, so these are two topics that I super love, and I find them super fascinating. So you can see the bullet ant is complete in the top right hand corner. I'm also doing a weevil, a cuculeonid, down in the bottom right hand corner. They're one of the cutest and one of my favorite insect species, but this poor one has also been infected by a different species of the Cordyceps fungus. And on the left is a very strange looking image. When I begin to develop it, you'll probably start to think it looks just like a human skull and crossbones. But in fact, it's based off a photograph from a photographer who has found this fungus at the end stage after it's taken over a fly. And when a fly in the right position has had its eyes decompose, it actually can look kind of like a skull shape. But if you look carefully from the perspective, the body's curled around behind that head skull shape, and there's wings out to the side, but they're on a thin angle so you barely see them. And then for the crossbones, well, that is the Cordyceps fungus. It's grown out in 4 different directions at least, taking over this fly and consuming it. So these are my interpretations for the prompt word mindless. I was tempted at first to just draw a zombie, but I drew one last year for I think the prompt word drool, and these are real life zombies, really. This fungus literally takes control of the mind of these insects and then consumes them from the inside out. I think it's such an interesting and creepy form of parasitism. I think it's totally fascinating. I hope that you've enjoyed listening to it or found it interesting as well. And thank you so much for watching. Don't forget, if you haven't liked, subscribed, commented, and all that sort of stuff, let me know down below. I'm curious if you have a favorite insect. I'm very fond of those little weevils, but I don't know, maybe something like a lacewing or a praying mantis might be my favorite. It's so hard to choose. There's so many millions and millions of insects out there, and many of them aren't even discovered yet. Probably that means a whole bunch of Cordyceps fungi have not been discovered yet either. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me for this day 2 prompt word of Mindless for Inktober 2019. Fingers crossed you'll see me for day 3, but we'll just take it as it goes. I did just receive my art snacks in the mail today, so I'm really excited to open that. Who knows, I might even get started on prompt word 3, which is bait, tonight. And thanks so much for watching. Take care, guys, and I'll see you soon. Bye.